What is up, everybody? Hopefully, you're coming over and watching from Coach's stream. That's where we were just at. If you didn't see that, there's going to be some things that we aren't going to discuss here necessarily, just because we don't want to repeat for those of you that have made your way over. So make sure that you're checking out both of us. The way we're going to do it this week is we're going to go live back to back on both channels. Tomorrow, we'll start with my channel and then go over to Coach's. And that's how we're going to rock it. So that being said, what we are going to do is we're going to have a great time going through literally play by play in practice to give you a full context of everything that happened, everything we took notes on.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to compare notes, kind of talk through the plays, and try to give you the best visual of what happened at practice. I can say this is not something that I necessarily did last year, other than when I talked about the quarterbacks. And I can say that other content creators aren't doing this. They're not giving you the details of every play and what happened kind of on that play, and bringing people close enough.
Yeah.
So this is something I'm excited to do over here. That being said, we are going to do that plus more, and we're going to do it all next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. Got my guy Coach with me.
What up?
What up, Coach? What up, Coach?
What's good, baby?
All right, chat. Listen, if there are specific questions that you have while we are talking, go ahead, throw those in the chat. Coach and I will do our best to go through and star those. And then we will discuss them at the end of the stream. So make sure that you put your questions in here. Know that we aren't avoiding them and looking over them. We're taking the ones that we think are really good questions. You don't necessarily have to super chat. If you want to support the channel, that would be fantastic, but not a necessary thing to do. And then we are going to go through play by play here while you guys are asking your questions and we're starring them. And we're going to go through play by play and try to bring you as close to camp as possible. Here's another thing I'm going to do as well. I did record my walk-in into camp, so I'm going to put that up later and just give you guys that video. It was something that I think would be nice for those who haven't been to camp, just to kind of see the layout of what it is that we see.
That's awesome.
And just visually, you can kind of put yourself in camp, whether it's you're watching myself, you're watching Coach, or anybody else. It's nice to have that feel of exactly what it is, so that it feels like you're there and you're immersed. So that being said, let's get into the 11-on-11 move the ball drills. Now, they did only 2 periods of 11-on-11 move the balls. The way that they did it is the first team goes, then the second team, then the third team. They start at the 20-yard line. Then they move into red zone. And they, same thing, first team, second team, third team. And then they pause, they come back together, and they do it all over again. So that being said, first set of move the ball was very, very short from the first team offense.
It was.
They handed the ball off to Mason for about a 5-yard gain. Again, he was the first guy to touch the ball. So for those of you that are wondering about Mason, he's probably going to be your number 2 running back. There was no CMC. Actually, let me give that context real quick. Here's who was not at practice, just so that you know. There was no Feliciano. There was no Bosa, no CMC, no Brindell, no Burford, no Trent, no Ayuk. We know that. No Cowing, no Kittle, no Juice. Pearsall was at practice, but didn't participate during the 11-on-11. Mooney Ward was at practice, but he didn't participate in the 11-on-11. I think that is a majority of who was not there. The starting offensive line was Moore, Banks, Zakel, Pooney, and McKivitz. So not ideal. That was the starting offensive line. I think out of those guys, Pooney probably showed out the best today, which is encouraging. That being said, the first move of the ball was a handoff to Mason for 5 yards, followed by a handoff to Mitchell. On that play, Mitchell had a nice little gain. He also finished that play laying the lumber on the tackler. Yeah, he was very, very physical. It was very impressive to me. Mason then had a catch for 0 yards. Also, Matos was offsides on that play. And then there was a handoff to Debo for about a 4-yard gain. Is there any notes that you took? I know you were watching like the offensive line and stuff.
So in the move the ball period, it was outside zone. So it was outside zone play for Jordan Mason first up. One thing that I did notice is that just tackle play, it was hard to really ascertain what the offensive line was doing because they just kept getting blown up down the line of scrimmage. You know, when you're trying to run outside zone, it's a unison. It's one solid punch with all 5 fingers clenched together to draw that punch. That's the kind of metaphor that you give in outside zone. You just didn't see that. There were guys that were opening up the back doors. There was Nick Ezekiel was getting blown off of the ball every time he snapped the ball. And teams started out bad for the offensive line.
Yeah.
Started out bad.
Yeah.
And you don't want to link it on everybody because a run style like outside zone is it's a unison, it's an in-step type deal. And if one guy goes down, it's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
Right? One guy doesn't get to his landmark, misses his steps, gets blown out, gives up an inside gap. The other guy who's with you is dependent on you doing your job so they can do theirs. So in some aspects, you want to be able to call out blunders, but you don't want to just say that it was just FUBAR, like it was a bloodbath, because you understand that what they're trying to do, everything's going to fall apart if somebody doesn't do their job. So one thing I'll say about offensive line is that they had a long practice. You know, they didn't get any breaks.
No. There was a period where they broke after this first move the ball. The defensive line was resting. The offensive line, we believe, was supposed to rest. Forster was having none of that.
Hell no. He took their ass right back in that corner.
He was pissed.
And literally, and you could tell why Daddy was pissed. The reason why you know he was pissed is because they had like some of their adjutants, like assistant trainers trying to come in to give water, and he was pushing them away. He was he was visibly like walking between them, trying to coach in between the water and the players because he didn't want them to get a break. I'm quite frankly, I don't think he thought they deserved one.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Antonio, we haven't even said his name on this stream at all. So with your capital letters, you're saying a bunch of nonsense really, really loudly. So there's that. Okay. So then the second team comes on. A Latu sighting.
Okay. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. Latu got his first catch.
He got his first catch of life.
The whole
Dog, I was like, when it happened, we were like, it was like a nut tap. It was like,
was that Latu? Yeah.
Latu just got
yeah.
It was like, dude.
Yeah.
So Cam Latu finally came out and just showed a little bit of life. In camp today, especially in the move the ball period. But I know in a way, Kyle did mention this. When you've been hurt for so long and you've been trying to gain your way back, and you got an organization or a coaching staff that believes in you, not only do you want to do it for yourself, but if you're any type of a decent human being, you want to do it for the people that believe in you.
For sure, yes.
And I feel as though that, there wasn't a lot of highlights today, particularly offensively, but that was one of them.
It was actually nice because
it was a good moment.
I will say this: last year he was targeted. They really tried to make him look like a ball player.
They were trying.
He couldn't catch the ball. It was the wildest thing, and I think it comes down to mental errors. Like, obviously he can physically catch the ball,
right,
but mentally he was overwhelmed or what have you. So that being said, those that are just joining right now, what we're doing is we are running through literally every play that happened during the 11-on-11 drills, and if you have questions, whether it's through a super chat or a regular question, we're going to star those questions and we will answer them at the end. So it's not that we're not paying attention to the chat. We definitely are, but we want to get through this and then we'll turn our attention to your questions. Okay. So Latu caught the ball on the second team when the second team was on for their first play. Schrader then ran the ball for a 0-yard gain.
Got blown up in the backfield.
By? Come on, baby. Come on.
So it was by
Jalen Graham.
It wasn't Jalen Graham.
It was Jalen Graham. That's what I wrote down here.
What did you write?
0 yards, Jalen Graham. Exclamation mark.
Hold on. What play was that? That was Jalen.
Yeah, it was Jalen Graham. Jalen Graham looking good again. For those of you that were here during the coverage last year, it was a lot of Jalen Graham praise from me. Great play by him.
I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
He's next.
He's nice, huh?
He's next.
Yeah.
He's next.
Yeah.
He's next. Why won't he start this year?
Because he's not a Will. He's a Mike linebacker. So I mean,
he's just gonna,
he's got to sit. Unfortunately, he's going to sit behind Warner, but I don't know. I feel like he's got the skill set to play next to him. We'll let the coaching staff figure that out. But to me, early again, last year he was the clear best of the young linebackers. Today he was more impactful than Winters.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that, well, definitely more impactful than Winters. Winters didn't pop it all, by the way. It is what it is. I didn't notice him. I saw him. Yeah. But there was no plays of note where
for sure
D Winters was doing anything that made me want to remember his practice today.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand what they're doing with Devondre Campbell, but is there a time where they start looking at Jalen Graham possibly at the wheel?
I would. It seems like right now they've got Winters entrenched as a will linebacker, and they've got him as the backup Mike. But man, I think skill for skill,
right?
He's really good.
He's really impressive.
He's good.
I mean, and let's get specific. His size, that's number one. Okay. Yeah. 2, confidence. Yeah. Sideline to sideline. All right. Being a leader, speaking up, right? You can tell that he sat behind Fred and really taking notes. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
3, see ball, get ball. One thing I know about him is that he's going to be downhill.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's going to go downhill. And if he sees an inch of daylight, he's coming through and he's not missing tackles at all. Right. One thing I will say about him is that he kind of came in as a safety transfer or a safety move.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see Jalen Graham's his knowledge of angles really, really serving him well at linebacker, being closer to the line of scrimmage, but still being able to have those pursuit angles and the physicality to back it up. I didn't see a lot of him last year. So let me ask you this. Did he get bigger? He's a safety guy. Yeah. So him moving into the spot and actually having the body to bring with it is a big deal. Did you see the work over the last couple of months with Jalen Graham? Now that you see him now,
it's tough because Devondre Campbell's so big that he almost makes everybody look small.
He's towering over the whole defense. Devondre Campbell's so tall. Dude.
Yeah, it wasn't until we saw Fred Warner over by himself where we realized, like, oh, Fred he's gotten bigger as well. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know that he's necessarily gotten bigger, but I think that athletically he held his own last year, and he's doing so again this year.
Yeah.
Later. Yeah. Thank you. Yep. Room service. Service. Oh man, that's awesome. Okay, so yeah, but I think physically he looks the part.
Yeah,
he looks the part. Yeah.
I want to see him be able to carry through the physicality side of it. I mean, obviously, you're not going to really see what a linebacker can do against your own guys. Not going to see that much. I will say, for what it's worth, all of the plays that we saw blowing up outside runs, linebackers were not there. Right. So we got to be able to see how they flow. One thing that they do at practice that I told you about this, and maybe they're going to switch it up when we get to practice tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I mean, they treat us like mushrooms, man. They feed us shit and keep us in the dark, bro.
Yeah.
Like, not only do they operate on the opposite side of the field, but they push to the top half of the opposite side of the field. So even when they are on your side of the field, you're still looking at a vantage point. So from a far distance, rather. So I will tell you this, linebacker wise, maybe I didn't see exactly what they were doing down there, and I just want to be fair to the process. But I'd love to see what Jalen Graham does in preseason. Like, I'm getting to the point now where I've seen these guys for a full time. I want to go we're going to go for the rest of the week, but obviously I want to get to the point where I start seeing these guys against other people, because one thing that stuck out to me immediately after leaving the practice.
Okay.
We're not going to see real football out of these boys. They got to play somebody else.
For sure. Yeah, the joint practices will be crucial.
The joint practices are going to be crucial. It's way too friendly.
Yeah.
It's way too friendly.
I'll also say this, just as we're going through the second team stuff. Today, the second team quarterback was Allen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brandon Allen was the second team quarterback. Yeah. Third string was Dobbs.
Yeah.
And then
Mordecai didn't play
at all.
No.
He didn't get any love.
Yeah. So when we talk second team, know that Allen was playing quarterback there.
Do you want to give out who was the quarterback of the day just to shock everybody?
No, it doesn't. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. And I think there's a lot of context as to why he was the quarterback of the day.
Of course.
So sure. Okay. It was Dobbs. Dobbs moved the ball the best, but here's the context. And this is why we're doing this. Here's the context. And this is why it's very important to know these things. Mm-hmm. On the surface, if I just put out quarterback stats, you'd be like, oh yeah, gee, Dobbs, blah, blah, blah. He had his biggest completions. Mm-hmm. Again, going against a 13 defense were to Debo and Jennings, who are first team players, going against 13 players. That's why it's like, whatever.
I mean, yeah, you hold it with it. Yeah, you know.
But if I'm talking about between him and Allen, like who clearly looked better today, it was clearly Dobbs.
Yeah,
and Dobbs, and Dobbs has more juice in his arm and all those things. So.
His accuracy was actually decent today.
It wasn't bad. Yeah, it wasn't bad at all. I think he was on point for the most part. So I think Dobbs looked better today. We'll keep an eye on it as we go.
Consistency is key, but whatever.
So play number 3 for the second team was a handoff to Patrick Taylor for no gain.
Patrick Taylor didn't do much today.
He not at all. No. The third team then came on. Ronnie Bell took a handoff for a couple yards. That was interesting to see him. He was kind of like the Debo Samuel of the third team. Yeah. And then there was a TD to Pline.
That was a good throw.
Great throw by Dobbs. That was actually the throw of the day.
That was impressive.
To be fair, that was
impressive.
Okay.
And the protection was there.
Yeah, it was. It held up. Great throw by Dobbs up the left side. Put it in a great spot. Pline had gotten behind the defense. I think it was Pline. I'm pretty sure.
No, it was Mason Pline.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Pline got behind the defense and made a good catch, but it was a well-thrown ball and then just took off and got a touchdown.
I mean, I will say, man, we didn't see much out of George today, but tight ends kind of had a solid day today.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad
right?
at all.
Because there was a little bit of a Braden Willis sighting today.
Yeah.
Braden Willis looked good in some team periods. Yeah. Like he didn't really do anything that much, but as far as
like physically, he looks the part. Yeah,
yes.
He looks the part. And then they ended that team period with a handoff to Schrader for 5 yards. Okay, then they moved to red zone period.
Oh, no, this is the shit.
This is where it got pretty rough for the offense. And this is where it was really, really hard to watch the offensive line because it was just getting blown up so regularly that the offense, for the most part, couldn't function. Okay.
Yeah.
So
the fans were even talking about it.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. So red zone, back to the first team on the field again. The very first throw was an interception. It was a lot of pressure up the middle. Mm-hmm. Okay. The story of the practice, tons of pressure up the middle. Brock did a fantastic job evading that pressure.
Yes, he did.
Rolling to his left, looked very quick-footed, and then set his feet and threw 20 yards to the middle of the field across his body for an interception. So I don't know, again, it wasn't a great decision by Brock. But it's practice. Not really too worried about what Brock does in practice. We've seen him be a good quarterback in actual playing, but that was the first interception of the day. Offensive line played a part, and then a crossbody throw was unnecessary.
And let's just stick to the offensive line on that play.
Yeah.
All right. So what really hurt us is that I will tell you this right now. Brandon Parker, who played left tackle for us today's practice. Boy,
it was awful,
man.
Awful.
Some people made their name off this dude today. We didn't even know who this Okoye dude was.
No.
Sam Monaco, that we picked up, wherever his name is. He made a name off of Brandon Parker today. They struggled. Nick Zakel, he's 6'8".
Yeah.
How do you get moved?
Yeah.
No core. I think playing him at center, I would be very interested in talking to Coach Forrester and asking him, why do you think Nick Zakelj should be a center with his length, his height. I mean, do you feel as though maybe you're just trying to use his girth or his body mass as a weapon for him?
Yeah.
Meaning like, hey, we put you at tackle, we get you moving in a certain direction. Guys can kind of take advantage of it.
Yeah.
If we can just at least get guys coming at you north-south and you can link up and lock onto a guy, then we got like half the battle done already.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not even something that's being done on the offensive line. I'm telling you.
It was brutal.
That was what started it off. Nick Zakelj and Brandon Parker got beat on that play.
Yeah.
So that's how it got started.
Yeah. The next play after the interception was actually the protection was decent here. Brock airmailed Conley over the middle in the end zone. It was that was the right decision though. So, and this is what's encouraging. Brock, the play before, made a really bad decision throwing across the middle of the field.
Across his body.
But the next throw, it's an incomplete, but it was a really good decision because nobody was open. Conley certainly wasn't open over the middle. And he just he threw it high. It's like if Conley can jump up and make a hell of a play, great. If not, it's going incomplete. Yeah. That's the right decision. And that's the decision he should have made the play before, and we wouldn't have had an interception.
But I think that's the theme of what we saw from Brock today. Yeah. There was ups, there was downs, there was mistakes that he made because he was enduring other mistakes. And then next play or plays down the road, you could see him trying to rectify. And as those things kept building, you started to see him kind of like be a little tilted. Yeah. I think Brock was pressing today. Yeah, he was. Next play, he made a hell of a throw though to Jennings. Yes. And Jennings had Renardo Green beat. This is to the right side of the end zone. Okay. Great throw. Great route by Jennings. Renardo Green was just the best player on that play. Yes. He closed the gap, hit the ball away from Jennings, celebrated. It was a big deal. The secondary absolutely loved it. Renardo Green did a fantastic job on that play because Jennings was open and Brock put it in a perfect spot. Offensive line held up on that play too. It did. One thing I will tell you is that they cut down the splits on that. I could tell because of how they were putting their hands down in the dirt. Yeah. They cut their splits down on that play. You can see that they all had like a body on body blocking scheme, right? Where everybody basically blocked their own man. And honestly, that was good for the offensive line. When you saw little plays like that where everybody had to just mind their own business and keep their own job assignment down, they handled it. But this is something that just came to me, Jess. You know what hurt us in today's practice? What's that? Simulated pressure. Stunts, twists, and it's still happening. Now, mind you, we don't have our full, war chest of the offensive line out there today. Yeah. But that's still there. And as a matter of fact, you can almost say that maybe that is the new wrinkle that we're seeing on defense with Brandon Staley being on this team. No, for sure. That's definitely worth noting. That's a great point by you. It's something that we didn't talk about on the last stream, and it's worth talking about. Hopefully that carries over because that was missed last year. That was like the only gripe that I personally had with Wilkes. I actually thought he was a pretty good coach. I think he was hands-on. Obviously, for whatever reason, he didn't vibe with the team. But when you look at statistically, they held up pretty good. But there was just no simulated pressures. They didn't move Bosa around. There was no stunts. It was very, very vanilla and just expecting that people got home. That was not the case from these guys today, which was nice to see. Real quick, for those of you that have maybe come in over the last few minutes, what we're doing is we're going play by play, giving you the full breakdown of what happened during the move the ball period of 11 on 11s. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. We are going to star those and we will get to them at the end of the stream. So that way we can just kind of get through what we got to get through. But then also you guys are being heard. We're definitely starring some of the really good questions. And then we're going to answer those at the end. So keep putting those in the chat. We appreciate you. Okay. So after that Renardo Green breakup, the last play of the red zone period was Purdy getting sacked and the interior O-line getting absolutely bullied. Yeah. It was atrocious. I mean, it felt like the defense probably sent 10 people on that play. They got so quickly. Brock didn't have a chance. I'm gonna tell you, the crowd was visibly disgusted. Yeah, on the last play of the red zone, for sure. Yeah, like it was such a bad play from just a protection standpoint, and not even a look. That the crowd exclaimed. Like fans around us were like, "What was that?" Like, it was that bad. Yeah. So I'll tell you, and true to form, we've talked about it on my stream. We'll talk about it on yours.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as that red zone period was over, they went straight into special teams.
Mm-hmm.
They started breaking down some specials, and defensive line was on the sideline because they earned themselves a good 8-minute blow. And that offensive line was over in the corner
getting
with
work.
Chris Forrester getting work
Yeah.
because they deserved it.
Yeah.
That red zone period right there, there's no excuse for not having starters in. There's no, you're a professional football player.
Mm-hmm.
You get paid to be here.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that was happening to them on the inside of that offensive line is just like, you almost have to ask yourself, it isn't a player thing.
Yeah.
A little bit of it is, have you guys been developing these guys?
Yeah.
I mean, what in the world is this?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to see the barn door swing open like that.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So, like we said, we're thin in certain areas, and we're only thin because we're starting to see what the depth has to say.
Yeah.
Right. And as far as depth is concerned, O-line struggled, and this is off. And this is what worries me, Jesse, is because this is off us just talking about the defensive line doesn't look impressive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, that's a good point. And this is something
particularly the interior.
This is something that kind of went by last year when I was at training camp, and I didn't really put it together, but I can't stop talking about it and bringing this up. And I feel like I've talked about it regularly lately. When Taco Charlton came in and was clearly the best defensive lineman, pass rusher wise, that should have been a red flag and been concerning in two areas. One, that the offensive line isn't up to snuff this year. And two, nobody opposite of Bosa is worth a damn. And that kind of held true last year. Now you fast forward to this year, you've got this year's Taco Charlton, and maybe he's just going to be a good player, and that's what I'm hoping for. But you got Sam Okanayo absolutely obliterating anybody who's lined up across from him. Put Brandon Parker on his ass one play. Yeah, it was awful.
It was bad. I mean, at one point, it was me, you, Rohan, and a couple of other people standing next to each other. And I remember like Raj, and I kept saying, "Who's 91?
Yeah,
who is 91?
Yeah, yeah, he is winning everything.
He's winning every play.
Yeah,
like, who is 91?
Yeah,
like it wasn't even plays that he was blowing up, but routinely getting in the backfield, routinely like you brought up, the cherry on top was this crazy pancake block that he put on Brandon Parker, bro. Brandon Parker, look, let me tell you something. Brandon Parker looked like dirty laundry laying in the middle of the field, bro. When he was done getting drove into the ground, no one helped him up.
No.
He just peeled himself off of the turf, got up, and walked back to the huddle, bro. It was bad, man.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good. Hey, great questions in the chat. We're starring a bunch of these. Keep putting them in the chat. All right. So after the first team, red zone, we got to the second team. Once again, Brandon Allen, the quarterback, had a nice little screen to Ronnie Bell. Here's what I will say. Ronnie Bell, if he makes this team, is clearly, like, if Debo's out, he's clearly going to be the Debo. He's going to be the Debo. Yeah. Like, that's what they're looking for from him. He's physically put together. He's a little bit lower in stature. I think that's where they kind of expect him to play, or that's the role if he makes the team. Right. Then there was a pass left, incomplete to Conley. Yep. And then an incomplete pass to Mitchell. Not Allen's fault at all. It was a well-thrown ball. Mitchell was open over the middle. This is going back to the J.P. Mason situation where Mason is the better pass catcher. Mitchell didn't even get a hand on the ball. It was so... I don't know how to explain it. He turned around, middle of the field, put his hands up. Allen put it right where his hands were, and the ball went straight through his hands. Didn't even touch his hands at all. He was going through the motions. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, that was an interesting play. Is there any notes that you took on the O-line? Because I know that this was the nice thing, is that you were watching a lot of the O-line while I was watching what was happening in the play, and then we can compare notes. Was there anything of note that you saw here that was like, hey, pass protection wise, Colton McKivitz actually did look better. Colton McKivitz actually was doing really good against Robert Beal. One time he had a really good rep when Leonard Floyd switched sides. He went over to the other side. He had a really good rep against him. One thing that I will tell you is that let's start talking about a couple of the interior guys that we picked up. The Niners do a really good job at trying to pick up,
smaller pieces from bigger schools. And what I mean by that is that guys that come from a big footprint, but they weren't necessarily the guy.
Yeah.
But they have the cachet. They have the 4 to 5 years of the weight room program. They have the great coach that's probably poured all of this coaching into them.
Yeah.
And they can come in and play for us automatically. I'll tell you this right now. I feel like those guys this year are just a little too small. Drake Nugent.
Yeah.
The center that we got out of Michigan struggled. He's got short arms, man. And it's he's one of those guys where it's like he wants to fight, but it's almost like kind of fighting with a kid. You just hold him by their forehead and you're like, let me at him. He just doesn't have the arm length.
I don't know what his measurables are as far as arm length, but it definitely either he has short arms, which I don't physically know, or he just plays like he has short arms. Either way, it's not good.
Right. Yeah. And another thing about it is that what you would like to see from him is a little bit more tenacity. I was seeing him in the pass game. He's nervous. He doesn't have a lot of poise in pass protection because he understands he doesn't have the length. A lot of guys try to long arm him, use one arm as two, post him. Malik Collins did that to him a lot of times in the game.
Yeah.
Also, Garrett Kingston struggled, but they had Garrett at tackle because we're so small and light at tackle.
Yeah,
I'm not really going in on Garrett Kingston today because he was playing out of position.
He was.
So from what I saw with the smaller pieces that we've had, Nick Sakel, I don't know. I do not know. I don't know where the development is. I don't get it.
Here's the thing, and this is what's frustrating. Okay. Because I think Forrester's a good coach. I really do. You said the word developing there. I don't know how often you can develop low-end draft picks and undrafted guys into being players in this league at any position.
Respect.
Right? And when you're at a premium position like offensive line and you're consistently taking guys in the back half of drafts or unrestricted free agents or undrafted free agents, we get excited about these guys. You know, someone in the community will watch film. They'll talk about how awesome so-and-so is. And then in 3 years, they're off the roster. Everybody forgot about them and we're moving on. And it's a new group of guys that everybody's excited about. But it's like, man, the fact that we have to get excited as fans for guys that are undrafted at the offensive line, that's the issue. That's the issue. I don't think that Forrester is doing a bad job of development or the team is doing a bad job of development. I think that there's just ceilings for guys that are late round draft picks or undrafted. That's why Brock doing what he's done is so damn impressive because it's rare.
Value. Yeah,
it's rare.
You don't find value at that position of the draft, let alone on a team. All right, I'm just gonna let you know. You kind of led me to it. Let's cut the shit then. Nick Sakel he doesn't belong on this team. He's not a pro football player.
He doesn't look like one.
He doesn't look like a pro football player, right? I'm sorry. You know, Drake Nugent, you know, like you can't grow arms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand you're taking a fielder on him.
Yeah.
But you know, for what we say about Jake Brindle and John Feliciano, like there's a difference.
Yeah.
You know, same thing with Garrett Kingston. I know he played out of position today, but he's not a pro player.
Yeah.
You know, these guys are getting moved around. You know, I said it the show before. I'll say it again. The offensive line wasn't bad today. They were borderline unprofessional.
Yeah. It wasn't bad. I was like, oh, where are you going with this?
Yeah.
They were awful. Yeah. It was so bad today.
Yeah, it was borderline. Where'd you get these guys?
Bad is not the descriptive word that we should be using here. That's how awful it was.
Yeah, it was very, very alarming, you know? So and that's why, like, I'm glad that, you know, you went play by play, I went play by play because my notes are a bloodbath.
Yeah.
So you're really helping me along the way. Because I didn't have anything good to say.
No, that's fine. And there's still more. So we're still finishing out the first red zone period. Now the third team is on board.
Right.
At that point, Dobbs is on the field. And Jennings was on the field as a receiver. I'm not sure why. So Jennings catches a TD, first play, right side. Again, credit to Dobbs. Best throw of the day was in the move the ball period by Dobbs. But his two other really good passes
was nice.
were to guys that were starters. Okay. And then he threw an incomplete pass to Trent Taylor on the right. Trent Taylor was, man, he was targeted a ton in the red zone. Yeah.
He was doing the same today.
Then he threw an incomplete pass to Ronnie Bell over the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the good news. As soon as they close the red zone period, Moody comes forth.
Yep.
Takes 2 kicks in the 45-yard range.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing but right down the middle on both those kicks.
Definitely.
That was great to see.
I mean, yeah, it was good. It was good to see.
It is.
It's good to see. I mean, Money Moody.
It's still practice. I get it. But it's nice to see because at the very least, it's not a talent issue with him. If he misses kicks, like most kickers,
right,
it's a mental issue.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do to get over that. But coming into if there was this mental block or anything like that, you would think that maybe it would show itself. It didn't today, at least.
One thing I will give him credit for is that they don't give him a chance to warm up. They don't give him a chance to kind of get to it. The pace of practice is rapid, right? So the periods are going back to back to back to back to back. So when he got in those kicks, there wasn't anybody kind of like laying anything out for him. It was like literally red zone was over. They moved the field goal. They had field goal on wheels. They rolled it out in the middle of the field, put him up, and he had to just kick him quick. Boom, boom, got him out, and we moved on. So that much I will say is that when you're a kicker, you kind of do have to be on demand, right? There's no real warm-up period to a kick. It's like, motherfucker, you want to kick or not? So he actually got it done. I'll give him that much.
It's a simulation, really. I mean, because that's the way it is in the game. It's not like he's out there practicing kicks and then he gets to go on whenever he gets to, you know what I mean? He's sitting on the sideline. He can kick into a net, which I'm sure he's doing on the side. And then it's like, oh, okay, it's time to go in and kick some balls. So it's a good simulation and you know.
Yeah, it went well.
Good. Yeah. Definitely. It went well. Yeah, he did a good job. So okay. Now the team rests, whatever, get back to it. Period 2. They're back to the 20-yard line, so they're out of red zone. We're back to the first team. First play, Deebo Samuel, 20-yard end around. Looked very explosive. One thing I will say about Deebo is that he's definitely in shape.
He's in shape.
You can see he's moving quicker. He still can't separate worth a damn for the most part, outside of one play, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Okay.
But for the most part, he was getting shackled by Isaac Yadam. So again, maybe that's an Isaac Yadam thing. Well, maybe that's a Deebo thing, but not great.
And Isaac Yadam was not trying hard. It wasn't a hard task. He was in his hip pocket the entire time. He just ran with Deebo. And that's the thing about Deebo is I kind of feel like in his routes, he has a lot of wasted movement. And he really wants to look like he's doing a lot when not a lot is happening. So Isaac Yadam on top of Deebo, I mean, it's more the same. It's what we've seen from Deebo before. I mean, there was separation later in the practice that we'll touch on. In
a couple plays here, actually.
Yes. But on the end around, I just want to talk about how that play ended, though. I mean, Jair
Brown.
That's the part that I want to talk about.
He did.
The 20-yard end around was kind of cool because Brock Purdy actually was the lead blocker on that play. But I mean, Jair Brown came down. And honestly, you could tell it was a statement play. Deebo wasn't going to score there. The angle was already cut off, and he was honestly just going to have to step out of bounds. Jair Brown made it a point to get over there to go collect his ass. So, I mean, that's something that you want to see from Jair Brown because I said this before. His last game was his best game. Jair Brown had a phenomenal Super Bowl. So it's awesome to see him kind of carry that over into practice. And you can see that he himself is kind of taking over as like a real contributor on the defense. It's awesome to see.
And I see what you said here, Marco. Somebody else made the comment as well. I think for me, anything under 50, like I'm good with. You know what I mean? I'm good. If he's kicking anything under 50, that's what I want to see. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Okay. Next play, I wrote down the pocket collapsed here. Surprise, surprise. Brock threw. Oh, this was okay. Here's an all right. So pocket collapses. Brock gets a little bit mobile, throws to the right side of the field on an out-breaking route to Willis. 10 yards. It was a little bit out of his reach. Willis had to dive for the ball. And I don't know how Lenore came out with this football.
I didn't see that.
He picked the ball. I don't know how or what. Dude, he came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Ended up with the ball in his hands, and then it would have been, a pick six or whatever. Yeah, it would have been a pick six. Yeah. But, dude, hell of a play by Lenore.
Hell yeah. I mean, look, bro, I think the theme of this practice is O-line didn't look good. There were missing players from the O-line and from the defense.
Yeah.
But the shining stars of today's practice were the running back room,
secondary,
and the secondary.
Yeah.
The running back room and the secondary did their thing today.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So that was the third play. The second play. And then the third play was the one time where Debo did get open.
Yes, and it was an overthrow.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. He got open. It was probably, I want to say, probably talk about 40 or so air yards is where the ball would have had to have been.
Mm-hmm.
And Brock overthrew it.
Yes.
So kudos to Debo for getting open. They weren't able to connect on that one.
Nothing.
Did you,
from offensive line standpoint?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
So on the overthrow, what you did see is that it was a bad snap. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
good point.
So Brock had to kind of collect himself on the overthrow, and I just think that he mistimed it. Honestly, again,
Brock's biggest thing is timing.
His timing is attached to his arm strength.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And his timing is attached to his arm strength, which is also attached to his processing.
Mm-hmm.
So if Brock mentally does not trust the protection that he has, he's going to let that ball go sooner.
Yeah.
And he's going to calibrate for the fact that he's letting the ball go sooner by putting more on the ball because he doesn't trust his arm.
Yeah.
So if he has to let the ball go sooner than he thinks he has to, almost 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a heater from whatever he can do, because he's going to say, in his mind, he's thinking, I'm late already.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, on time is ahead of time.
Yeah.
So if I'm late, I got overtime to get this thing out there. And then that's when you see the overthrows.
For sure.
The erratic throws. And that's what you saw in that throw.
Yeah. Okay. The next play, I didn't have anything down as far as the offensive line giving up pressure here. Maybe that was the case. I think what's happened is at this point in practice, Brock is just being rushed, that he's expecting that it's going to be pressure. And so he literally, as fast as he could, dumped it off to Danny Gray right over the middle. It was like a 2-yard pass. Danny Gray turned it into like a 6-yard gain. And that was the end of team number 1 as far as move the ball before we go back to red zone.
Okay, well, and that's what I also want to bring up too, is that at the end of team, that's when like the aroma started coming around.
Yeah.
Where Brock is not feeling this practice.
Yeah. Like, nor should he be.
Yeah, exactly. Like by the time the last play of team came, and then we had the overthrow, and then he made that quick dump off, almost seemed as if it was kind of like, let's get this over with. Here. Yeah. It's over. Here. I made the play.
I'm done.
I got one more. We got like 30 seconds left in the period. Let's go.
Yeah.
And that's how it felt, because he wasn't getting a look, and he felt frustrated. And you could start to see that the inadequacy of the protection was bleeding into his performance, and he wasn't feeling it.
Yeah. He was not a fan of it. Which, I mean, buckle up. You might be frustrated all season, unfortunately.
That's not. I mean, so the honest conversation is, you guys are going in on a backup offensive line at best, right? But we got Pooney because we weren't satisfied with Spencer Burford.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Colton McKivitz is only here for one more year, and we saw what Jake Brindle did. All right. So really, what are we really asking ourselves as far as like when the whole team comes back? Like, what is that? What does that look like?
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But the depth isn't great on the O-line. Okay, so now the second team comes in. Brandon Allen, once again, is the quarterback here. He throws an incomplete pass to Trent Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Then he hands it off to, I believe it was Mitchell for 5 yards. And then he has an incomplete pass over the middle to, I wrote down number 88. I don't know. Was it Pline again? Okay. Yeah. So incomplete pass to Pline over the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Then Dobbs comes in with the third team. He completes a 15-yard pass to Debo, who was going agagast the third team. Yeah, so
that was very weird.
Yeah. over the middle.
And I feel like those are times where Debo inserts himself into the.
He's like, let me make this one.
Yeah, I feel like he does it.
I need a route here. Jennings did it earlier too, so I'm sure that
they throw themselves if they have the autonomy. We're dealing with a team that's been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
right.
These guys know what they need.
Yeah, and if they feel as though that there's a rep that they left out on the field that they want to get back, they will tell a younger guy or whatever, hey, I need this rep. Yep.
So then the next play, they handed off to Patrick Taylor for basically like no gain.
He didn't do anything.
Yeah. And then completed pass rolling to his right. This was a good pass actually as well. Rolling to his right, completed it to Malik Turner for about 20 yards. And then that was the end of the third team. So now we move back to the red zone period, the second red zone period. First play, a pass intended for Debo. What do you have here for O-line? Anything? Was it awful?
Boy, the second red zone recap, this is what I have. You have very detailed notes.
Yeah.
This is how frustrated I was for I didn't even write detailed notes.
Okay.
I put D-line is roasting the entire period. O-line getting worked the entire period. Coach Forster is visibly pissed off and intense. We're working run fits and stunts. He's so upset. O-line seemed confused. Hargrave is in shape. That's all I wrote. I was so pissed. Like, you couldn't even scout it, man. It was like, oh, okay, well, that's a bad play, Nick. Oh, you too, Jalen. Oh, you too, Spencer. It's the whole O-line.
Yeah, it was everybody. So take everything that I'm about to say with a grain of salt, but this is what happened on the actual plays. O-line aside, which was atrocious. Okay. Yeah. So first play, throw over the middle, intended for Debo. Odom picks it off.
That was a great pick.
It was a really good pick. Actually.
I thought it was Ronaldo Green at first.
And
Odom, I don't know, man. Like, is Odom just a practice player?
Yeah, maybe.
Have you seen any of this in games?
No, not at all. Not at all. But he did look well. He did look good today.
Mm-hmm.
So pick over the middle, intended for Debo. Then a 10-yard carry by Elijah Mitchell. Second time he ends his run.
This is what turns you on.
Like, I loved it. I loved it. I was like, I'm telling you, he's running with juice today. He's out there to hurt people.
Yo, when he made that play, like, you basically stood up and was like, listen. Elijah Mitchell's having a day. What anybody said.
I did. I was excited. But you love to see it from Mitchell. More so because Mitchell has that capability, but he really hasn't looked like himself for 3 years.
It's been a while.
And man, I know it was just one practice, and I still think that I prefer JP Mason just because consistently he's the better runner. But it was nice. I root for Mitchell, and Mitchell finished that run with so much tenacity. It was awesome to see. So that was a great run there. Then TD pass. The only touchdown that the first team offense had, which is crazy because they had 2 red zone plays and couldn't get, or 2 red zone drills.
Red zone periods and didn't get
it. It was awful. It was awful. It was a TD pass short over the middle to Trent Taylor after that run.
Yeah.
And then I have a sack
given up by Pooney and Jalen Moore.
Okay.
I saw
both of them. Okay, great. Yeah. So probably Pooney's one bad rep that we really saw today.
That was one bad rep.
So sack given up there. They always let the quarterbacks continue. Brock ended up completing a short pass to Mitchell, but it would have been a sack. Okay. So that was the end of that first team period. Now the second team comes on, and we get a I don't even know.
Complete pass to Conley.
Complete Conley to the left, short pass. Handoff to Taylor, which again, nothing. Literally did nothing.
Yeah.
Then an incomplete pass over the middle. This was the play where Buddy gets ran over by 91.
All right.
Absolutely embarrassing.
So look, man, Brandon Parker. Hey, Brandon. If you happen to be on the YouTubes today and run past this show, hey, Hey, look, man, it was only 24 hours, man. It's not that bad. Technically, it was 1 hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
My man, I don't know what God you pray to. I don't know. You better call your mama, get some good food, maybe get a care package, pray.
Yeah.
But that type of performance, man, with like standing straight up, not being able to be rooted in your pads, no core. I mean, the kid Sam, what is it? Sam Okinawa?
Yeah.
Bro.
Okinawa.
Okinawa,
I think.
Okinawa, right? A-E-I-O-U, whoever, right?
He was crushing him today.
He
was
had
awful.
Consistent bad reps.
Yeah. It was bad.
There were, when you move a man from point A to point B, that's almost supposed to be an anomaly in the skill set. Something went wrong. The technique wasn't there. But when you get into the NFL, you don't just throw people around.
Yeah.
Like, you don't do that in the NFL. That is very rare.
Yeah. Like, okay, imagine here, 49er fans, you'll remember this play against the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
Remember a couple years ago when McGlinchey got thrown. Like literally rock bottomed by what's his name from the Cowboys? 11, Micah Parsons.
Yeah, Micah Parsons.
Threw him. It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that dynamic.
Him airborne, but he shoved him to the ground like a child.
Like his feet went in the air.
Yeah, and he just poof.
Yes, and I heard out of nowhere, sometimes I dream that he is me. Yo, like Mike made him fly, bro. Like I'm telling you, that play. I mean, so you had your Elijah Mitchell play, where you like exclaimed, like, Elijah's having a day. I'm telling you guys, that play. That was my play.
That was your play. Yeah.
I let out the biggest oh my God.
Yeah. But not because of good things. It was just like
I'm an offensive line guy.
Literally looked at it and goes, get him off the field. He's gonna get somebody hurt.
Yes. I was like, oh my God. Like he threw him on the ground, bro.
Yeah.
Like that can't happen.
Yeah.
And there were all right, that was the worst play. But there were a lot of plays. Javon Hargraves was routinely in the backfield.
Yeah.
All game. And, I didn't want to say this, but he outed himself. Aaron Banks said it. Half of you watched Aaron Banks after in the post press conferences today. And what did he say about Javon Hargraves? Oh, Javon is the real deal.
Yeah, he's in shape.
He's the real deal. He's in shape. No shit, Sherlock. You was whooping your ass today.
Yeah. It was rough.
It was dogging your ass.
It was rough. And then after that play, we get a 10-yard TD pass left pylon to Trent Taylor again.
Trent Taylor had the two touchdowns the two legit touchdowns that the first team actually put together today.
Not the first team. This was the third team.
Okay.
He did have a first team touchdown with Brock, and then he had a third team touchdown with or second team touchdown rather, not third team. Second team touchdown with Allen.
Yeah.
So Trent Taylor actually looked pretty decent today.
Yeah.
And then the third team comes on. Schrader with a 5-yard run. He looked good today.
Cody Schrader is a guy.
Yeah, he's a guy.
I think he's going to be somebody that they're going to try to stick away and hide and probably pick him up after.
Try to sneak him onto the practice squad.
He's definitely
the problem is it all depends on how he plays in the preseason. Because if he plays well in the preseason, he might get scooped up by somebody. So
he for real. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. So that's somebody that keep an eye out on. He's
viable.
We can talk about the measurables. We can talk about his RAS. We can talk about all those things. Athletically, maybe he doesn't measure up on paper, but he doesn't look slow. He doesn't look hesitant.
He looks the part.
He looks like he can play in this league.
And he doesn't. You know what else too? He doesn't look like a guy that's playing outside of his frame just to be there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
There's one thing of having a guy that you see like he doesn't have the measurables, but you're like, man, just for the kid to be normal, he's got a red line and skill set.
Yeah.
Like he's like. And how consistent is that?
Yeah.
Right. In certain ways, you almost want to say that about Elijah, where Elijah had to put pedal to the metal for his rookie year just to get through a season. We saw that boy's body fall apart throughout that season.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's never been the same back since that year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So sometimes you do see guys where you see a Cody Schrader and you're like, man, you're burning too close to the sun, kid, but you're young. And let's just see if it's enough for him to keep that consistency, because that's what I do see from him.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I like about Jordan Mason, especially different from last year, is that Jordan Mason used to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Mason used to be the guy where he would go so hard every time he got the ball because he knew where he stood in the totem pole of like where the competition lied on the team. Now you see like this confidence in who he is, how he plays, where he's picking his spots. And not only is he picking his spots, but he's also understanding that I don't got to run everybody over every time I get the ball. Something that I will say about Curtis Schrader is like, let's just see what he can do down the stretch once he sees other opponents. And maybe he will be able to stick around.
Listen, the 49ers consistently do this. I mean, we can go down the path and look at Sermon, 3rd round pick.
True.
Mitchell was a later round pick.
Mm-hmm.
He's the better player. TDP, 3rd round pick. That same year, Mason, undrafted, better player.
Yeah.
This year, Garendo, trade up for 4th round pick. Schrader, undrafted. Right now, the better player.
So, ability is the best ability.
Yeah.
Availability is the best ability.
It is. So this is kind of par for the course, the running back position, the way that they've drafted and then picked up other guys later. And luckily those guys later have done a really good job. So
Kyle genuinely seemed bothered when he was answering questions about getting back Isaac Garendo, though.
Yeah.
You could tell that's somebody he was
that's
really
his guy. Yeah.
He's really counting.
Yeah, he is. Well, and we'll see. Well, I'm not trying to write his story now, but just in the immediate, one's available, one's not. So clearly he's better.
100.
So that was the Schrader run for 5 yards, and then it all ended with an incomplete pass over the middle. I didn't get to see who it was intended for. Once again, Moody comes on the field, 2 47-yard field goals right down the middle. Good to go. That's how practice ends.
Practice ended.
Yep. So hopefully that was a really good detailed breakdown. You guys are able to see exactly what we saw. Hopefully we were able to paint the picture for you.
Yeah.
And this is something that I want to do every day for y'all. So
100%, man. And like,
yeah, go ahead.
Hey, man, for what it's worth, man, it's the best guy of all time.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
Like we had a really good day at camp. And I want to see what they do to
ramp up tomorrow.
Yeah. Because one thing, I think we can agree with this.
Yeah.
Tomorrow there needs to be a ramp up.
For sure.
Tomorrow, this was way too lackadaisical.
I agree.
The intensity was not there. There were moments of intensity during practice, but there wasn't a consistent level of good work happening. And you could see that in no one-on-ones today.
Yep.
No one-on-ones. No one-on-ones for receivers. No one-on-ones for corners. No one-on-ones for offense or defensive linemen. That's the direct competition that you want to see on the first day of pads. On the first day of pads, you want them things slinging. Like it's the first day. It's the first day, man. So
I'll also say this. I get that there's designated rest periods for the first day in pads. To have so many players sitting that are starters on this team, it's a little disappointing. Like I would say, luckily for us, like we're going multiple days. But if I was
a one day,
and I was bringing my kid, I'd be super disappointed that I didn't see the CMC.
Today would have been deflated.
So it would have been deflated.
If you came to actually like take it all in,
you want to see like the best of Brock Purdy.
This was not the
he's your favorite player. It's like, well, that didn't happen.
Yeah, you didn't get that.
And a lot of that is because the offensive line couldn't hold up, and he didn't have a lot of the starters out there at receiver. It's like, dude, okay, well.
They kind of rolled into practice, too. They had a pre-practice early on. Malik Mustafa came out first. Demo came after. The DBs got in some light work. But for the most part, they looked like grazing cows out there.
Yeah,
when they first started practice, the guy was just laying around, stretching, having half-hearted conversations. Kyle and John are playing pass with each other in between the fields. It's just
very, very lax.
They need to tighten up.
Yeah. Dave says, everyone in Cali, what up, boys?
What up?
What up? Zach says, Jesse, how has Pooney been looking so far? I think we probably painted the picture, but if you didn't catch it or anybody wants to know for sure, Pooney looked pretty good today. He did give up a sack, but overall, I think play in and play out for a rookie 3rd round pick, I think he played very well today.
Yeah, I think that Pooney, if you had to give one guy a reprieve, Pooney's the only offensive lineman that I'm willing to say.
Yeah. That was worth anything today.
That was worth anything.
And oddly enough, McKivitz actually.
McKivitz was McKivitz just, we don't talk about him.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
We can get on McKivitz tomorrow.
Yeah.
But That's the thing. Like, I don't want to say it's hard to look at Jalen Moore. You know, I mean, it's hard to look at Aaron Banks when you know he has Jalen Moore.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's hard to look at McKivitz when he's got Pooney. Pooney's a rookie.
Yeah.
He's not, I mean, we want to be fair to him, but he didn't do everything perfect today. And a lot of times he kind of hurt Colton as well. So, I mean, one thing I'll say about Coach Forrester is that he knows the group he has.
He does.
Right? It takes self-awareness to leave a period and say, guys, we're not resting. We're going to go and work this period because this needs to be immediately talked about.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. No, he did a good job there. And real quick, too, haven't mentioned it yet. You can see in the upper corner there, Underdog Fantasy. They are the sponsor of the show. For those of you interested in either playing fantasy football, having a little skin in the game with higher lowers, you can do either. You can do best ball fantasy football anywhere from 2 to 12 teams. You can also hedge everything that you do with higher lowers. There's some really good ways to where it's like if you do a pick 3, for example, you can choose to maybe take a lesser payout and say, hey, if I get 2 of these right, at least I still get some sort of payout. So you can kind of hedge your bets and have some fun with it. But overall, Underdog, thank you so much for sponsoring the show per usual. Link is in the description. Promo code LSS. You'll get basically a free pick as well, where, like, I'll give you an example. LeBron James, if he scored 1 point and you had him as your pick and you signed up, you win that one. And then you get up to $250 cash back. So make sure you tap in with Underdog Fantasy for all of your fantasy and higher lower needs. All right. That being said, Gods911 says, do y'all think the only reason these contracts take so long is because of Parag? It's just him trying to prove his worth? I don't know. I really couldn't tell you. I don't know what it is, but it's not ideal. Lynch himself said that he wishes things got done earlier. Yeah. And
it sounds good.
Know. Yeah, it sounds good, but I don't know what the holdup is. I really don't. And I wish I did. Dave says the notorious Brother Bob is in the house. Yeah, he's very notorious, that Brother Bob. MD Band says, should we pay Purdy or should we put that money towards the roster?
We're going to have to do both.
Yeah,
once we pay Purdy, the money that we're going to have to do is going to be have to surround him without running for his life. I mean, this practice.
Yeah, it
got to him.
It was rough. It was rough. And the offensive line, but the problem is paying Purdy doesn't stop you from having a decent offensive line. Now you're going to have to pick and choose on whether you want an offensive line or you want an all-star cast that's not the offensive line for guys that touch the ball. But you can have a good offensive line and have a quarterback that's paid. It doesn't matter what Purdy makes, clearly, because he's severely inexpensive and, quite frankly, way underpaid, thanks to being the last pick in the draft and outplaying that tremendously. But this team, even with him at such a low rate, doesn't have a great offensive line. And that's not because Purdy's expensive. It's because they don't value the position the way that they need to. So it doesn't matter what Purdy makes. That offensive line is always going to be a concern of mine until it isn't. And right now, there's just no path that I see to a consistent, solid offensive line over the next 3 years.
3?
No, minimum. That's what I'm saying. Like, if I'm trying to foreshadow for the next 3 years, for the next 3 years, I don't see a path to them having a good offensive line. Trent Williams is only going to get older and retire. Right. Then it's like, I don't know if first of all, Banks regressed last year. I don't know how he's going to look this year, but today wasn't great.
He didn't look good.
Feliciano might be a starter on this team, but he's got knee issues.
Hurt.
Brindell is resting every other day due to knee tendonitis. There's not a lot of depth and talent coming up. Maybe Pooney can be a guy, but all he's doing is replacing maybe possibly Banks, who might not get re-signed. So it's like, what is the path to this offensive line being good over the next 3 years, unless all of a sudden they just start drafting the hell out of it and they hit on all these players? I don't see it happening.
That was my biggest thing to this question is when they said, should we pay Purdy or when MD Band said, should we pay Purdy or should we put money towards the roster? My thing is that half the money ain't even on the field.
Yeah.
CMC's not here, right? Trent Williams isn't here.
Ayuk.
Brandon Ayuk is waiting to get paid.
Yeah.
I mean, at this stage, it's not even about paying other people, but we're running out of people to pay that are worth the money.
Yeah.
Trent's getting old enough. We don't want to pay BA. I don't know if they're going to start investing in the offensive line. I mean, it's starting to look like the guys that they're picking in later rounds, they're not. It ain't the math ain't mathing. Yeah. I don't see what Drake Nugent is going to do. There's a reason why he went undrafted.
Yeah.
It's time for us to stop acting like we're the smartest people in the room.
Yeah.
And that nobody sees the value in these guys. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm tired of that. You know, we watched that. I mean,
how many guys over the last 3 years? Fisher was like the guy.
Because he benched so much.
Donovan. Does anybody remember this name? Donovan West? Anybody?
Oh my God.
You remember Donovan West?
And we swore that the rest of the league was so dumb.
He should have been drafted in the 4th round.
Oh
and we got him as an unrestricted free agent. He's the center of the future. Bro, he didn't even make the practice squad that year.
Dog, while we're talking about the offensive line, there was somebody in the chat who said Drake Nugent was our future center.
Yeah.
Like, there's a belief.
And maybe that I'm not saying it's impossible. But what I can say is it's unlikely. It's highly unlikely.
Dog, if I come to you with a 5-course meal and I just walk out of a landfill, aren't you going to look at me a little weird?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like, yo, Jesse, how about this steak, my man? This is like, you smell weird. Where have you been? It's just dumpster juice, baby.
Yeah.
But you won't eat this, man.
It's better than A1. It's better than A1. Yeah.
Just a little Worcestershire, baby. You know what I'm like, no, man, I don't trust that meal.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Okay, thank you for the question. Brother Bob says your top standout, Jess and Coach, pick one. He's saying group. Oh, and top group. Let's go player, and then we can go group afterwards.
Okay.
So why don't you give me a player that stood out to you today?
A player that stood out to me today would have to be.
Can you give it to 91?
No, well, yeah. I mean, Sam Nkawa.
Yeah.
The DN that we picked up. I mean,
this is what I love about Coach. He's gonna say his name wrong in 50 different ways throughout the same stream. I love this. This is good.
Sam Anakanu.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sam
not gonna work here anymore anyway. Yeah.
Sam on Kawadis. Sorry, no, but no, because I don't want him to watch this and think that I'm playing with his name.
No, you're not.
I'm so sorry.
No, he was impressive. He was an impressive player, but today. Maybe there's somebody else. I don't give me anybody.
But outside of that, I would have to say Jalen Graham. I liked what Jalen Graham did today. Yeah. I think you looked at me like I took your player. Did you get?
No, okay. Not at all. No, listen. I'm just happy because I talked about Jalen Graham.
I'm just happy
all offseason last year,
right?
And then I talked about him throughout this offseason, and I feel like now that I finally got somebody else to validate, I'm
on the train.
I love it.
And you know what? And you know, I'll be real. You were very gracious. In like, I was late to the party, but you didn't like hit me with the "I told you so."
No.
You were just like, "See,
he's good. Yeah, he's good. Yeah.
So,
but to be fair, late to the party is we didn't see him on the field last year. So unless you were at practice,
right?
You're not going to be, you know what I mean?
That's true.
So that would be unfair to be like, dude, how did you not see this?
That's true.
But it's nice having you there so that you could be like, yeah, man,
I immediately was drawn to him. I was like,
you said it before. I didn't even say anything.
You didn't say a word. Yeah. I was like, dude, Jalen Graham was good as hell.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he was looking real good. And especially in their indie drills, man, like the way he led those drills.
Yeah.
Like, my man, he's ready to get on the field, bro.
Yeah.
So Jalen Graham, and then of course, you know, I don't want to take. I know you like.
Well, why don't you give a group? Why don't you give a group as well?
Secondary today.
I'm with you.
I like the secondary today. Yeah. The secondary had multiple picks today. Guys were flying around. It wasn't even, you know, Demo and your usual suspects were there, but we saw a lot out of Isaac Adam today. Mm-hmm. Rocky Sin looked really good today. Mm-hmm. You know, Malik Mustafa looked good running around today. As far as Jair Brown, he finished off some strong plays against Debo today. Mm-hmm. I mean, you really can point out something of note that everybody in the secondary did and contributed. I mean, George Odom had a pick today. You know what I'm saying?
Green had a great pass breakup. Lenore had an interception.
Had another interception. Yep. You know, so today the secondary, and then also we were doing notes in pre-practice, and I saw in your notes you said, "Man, Yadam is long. Like he's a lengthy player,
much bigger than the other corners."
And there was a time where our biggest corner was, always Mooney. Mooney's been our big corner. But the only guy that actually replicated that type of size was Darrell Luter Jr.
Yeah.
Right. And I've been
Luter looks small next to Yadam.
Luter looks smaller now.
Yeah. Yadam
is a big boy. So
and listen, I was very critical, and we'll see how it plays out. I'm not gonna like base one practice and say that this is for sure it. But what I will say is when Yadam was signed, a lot of people were like, oh, Yadam, he had a great year last year. I'm like, okay, but listen, let's pump the brakes a little bit. We're talking about a guy who's like 28.
He's a journeyman. Yeah.
He's been a journeyman. Sure, he had a good year. Let's not just assume that he's going to come in and be great off the bat. I will say this. He looks the part, and I will happily be wrong if Isaac Yadam is that deal. He looked good today. I like him a lot. I like him a lot. Yeah.
He looked good. And and one thing that I'll say is, I talked about the intensity of practice. It could have been a little bit more. Practice was a little light. Could have been a little bit more.
Yeah.
But if there was one group that kind of brought the funk from the very beginning, I'm talking about from start to finish, it was secondary. Yeah. Malik Mustafa, first guy on the field.
Yeah.
Pre-practice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right guy after him, Sammy Womack comes out.
Yeah.
Right after that, Diamond Lenore comes out. You look at over half of the DB room was on the field before practice.
Yeah.
During pre-practice. The rest of these guys were kind of milling around, rolling out, kind of like getting themselves warmed up. Jair Brown was doing push-ups after missed MAs during pre-practice. Right? That's what I'm talking about. Like, you could tell that these boys were happy to come to work today.
Yeah. I also want to say this, and this is not something that's like a football related, but I notice these things as a father. Watching Lenore and Odom, when they came out, immediately goes to address the kids and started signing things.
That's so true.
That is worth noting. I thought that was really cool. They were the only players that did it. And I think that that's noteworthy. It's nice to see good guys who care about the fan base and not that the others don't. That's not what I'm trying to say. But it was nice to watch them go out of their way, take some time, sign some autographs, meet and greet with the kids, and I just thought it was cool. So I thought it was worth noting. I agree
with that. That's a good point, Jess.
I will say a player that stood out to me. I mean, I think Coach probably said most of them, but it was Elijah Mitchell was my guy today. Yeah, it was Elijah Mitchell. It was Elijah Mitchell was my guy today. I was very happy. Yeah. I was very happy with Elijah today. So definitely Elijah Mitchell. As far as top group, I agree secondary. But I will say that the running back group as a whole was actually very impressive.
They all were.
So
Schrader, Mason, and Elijah Mitchell all look good today. I mean, you didn't get a lot out of what's the guy? He's so forgettable now. The guy
Taylor. Yeah, Patrick Taylor.
He didn't do much. You know who he reminds me of body type wise? He looks like TDP. Would you say that?
I think TDP was pretty big. I feel like he's smaller. Maybe I'm missing something.
I thought TDP was big. That's my point.
Yeah.
I thought that TDP had size, and then I saw him in the NFL, and I was like, you do not look the same size as you did at LSU.
Yeah.
Am I the only one who feels like that?
No, he definitely
didn't. He looked like a monster at LSU.
He looks like he should. He looks like Mason does. Like he should look like Mason, and he didn't.
He did.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay,
yeah.
All right, that's fair. I feel like Taylor's a little bit, I don't know. I think Taylor might be smaller. I could be wrong though.
In that I thought Taylor was going to be a larger back as well.
Okay.
And then once I saw him in person, I was like, he's a little fella.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that could be the case.
Yeah.
Dave says, like and subscribe to the amazing content daily. Appreciate you, Dave, for supporting as always. JC Montana says, is this the first time you guys have met in person? It is.
Yes.
It is the first time. Yeah.
It is.
My wife made fun of us.
Yeah, she did.
If she's watching, I love you. Dazza says, can we extend Trent and BA and then Brock Purdy next year? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. They can afford all of them. You got to remember that when these contracts are done early on for the first couple years, players get cheaper and then it kind of builds up. So Brock Purdy is not going to be super expensive for probably another 2 seasons after this season, which is great. And at that point, Trent Williams will have probably retired. So it doesn't mean that you'll be able to keep the whole band together. Remember, we've got 40 if you include Ayuk, unrestricted free agents next year. A lot of these guys are going to move on. The depth may not be there. But as far as the top tier talent, you're going to be able to keep a lot of it. I would expect that Debo would be the odd man out in that scenario, though.
Yeah, for sure. Justin
says, how does Devondre Campbell look out there? You know what? There wasn't anything that stood out about him, but that can be good and bad, in my opinion. There was nothing where I was like, dude, he can't cover or
Yeah.
anything like that. And he is physically
he looks the part. He's a big kid.
Massive.
He's way bigger than Fred.
Yeah.
Like he looks like
massive.
honestly, if it wasn't
and
for
Fred's not small by any means.
If it wasn't for the fact that you could just tell he's not 300 pounds,
yeah,
he was a part of the D-line group.
Yeah. Remember, in fact, I thought he was at first.
You did, and I was
because
like, no, that's Devondre Campbell.
We were noting how small the defensive line looked when they walked out.
Yes.
And then they started doing a drill where the linebackers were creeping up.
Yeah.
So you couldn't really tell obviously you know the players. You couldn't really tell who was who right away.
Yeah.
It was just like a hodgepodge of rushing the passer. And I was like,
who's that D-lineman?
I go, that dude in the middle, that deal. I was like, who is that, first of all? And he's put together. And then he dropped back. I was like, oh, that's Campbell. Golly, man, he's a big boy. Yeah. So he's put together for sure. I don't know how he's going to hold up. I know coverage-wise, he hasn't been the best the last couple of years, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Tatum Bethune, I didn't even recognize him today.
Not at all.
So
not at all.
I didn't unfortunately notice that. Corey Soto says prediction for Purdy's season stats. More rush yards and more interceptions. I've said since watching him in college, interception prone, the drop luck stops. Yeah, I'll say this. I think that was something that I definitely noted in college, is that he took a lot of risks, but I feel like throw in and throw out, he's rectified a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely has some what the F moments still. Today in practice, we had one where it's like, dude, why are you throwing across your body? Like,
you didn't have to do that.
You don't have to do that. But truth be told, every quarterback has what the F moments. You know what I mean? Yeah, certainly. There's a lot of maybe lucky plays that have gone his way. The Green Bay Packer game in the playoffs, there could have been multiple picks, but they didn't happen. So I don't know. We'll see. I think Brock Purdy's going to be fine. But yeah, I could see a scenario where statistically maybe he throws for more touchdowns, rushes for more yards, has more interceptions. I could definitely see that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Stovey says, where's the USC and Michigan linemen?
Garrett Kingston and
you talked about him.
Nugent.
Yeah.
I mean, Nugent, he's just got a small frame. I mean, with the offensive line, there's some things that you just can't coach, right? You got to have the arms. You got to have the bend. You got to have the dexterity and the strength in your hands, not just weight room strength.
Yep.
One thing about Drake Nugent is that he's a wide body. He's short. And he is powerful, but the thing about it is that the distance from point A to point B to a man that's coming at you full-fledged while you're also snapping the ball, it's just a hard task. And you started to see it in the pros, and that's, credit to him. He was able to get around this for a long time, played at some of the best football ever, right?
Yeah.
But, in the NFL, I think this is when genetics takes over. And, I don't see him being able to be a viable option at center. I mean, especially with the type of football that we play as far as running the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, we're an outside zone team. That means you got to stretch. You really got to get up to that second level and get out there on that linebacker, man. You got to have the length, the torso, and the legs to get out there. I just don't see it from him. That's not to say, notice that I'm keeping it on his frame and not his play.
Yeah.
Because I know that some of the things that I'm seeing from his play is just emblematic of things that he can't help.
Yeah, physically. Right? It's not for a lack of trying, or even
it's not.
Maybe as far as his technique goes, may not be bad.
It's almost to the point where Coach Forrester's got some work on his hands. Now with Garrett Kingston, he played out of position today. I think they want him at guard. They played him at tackle today because they just don't have the bodies.
Well, I thought that they wanted Jalen Moore to be a guard too. They said that after they drafted him, and they've only played him at tackle. So for all we know,
well, that's another thing is though.
Let's just draft a bunch of linemen and play them out of position, because they always do that.
Because they never have a plan for these guys. Is that they just fit them in where they think they are because they think that they have like this androgynous running game where it's like, oh, we could just put him anywhere.
Yeah.
A tackle could be a guard can be a center, and it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
They don't value the position to the point where in order to build a guard, he's got to be a guard for 3 years.
Yeah. You want to go let them know to come back later. So we got housekeeping's back. Okay. Niners Worldwide says, tell me about the secondary. Brother, I think we've been talking about the secondary the whole time. It's fine. You can come back tomorrow. That's fine. Oh, yeah, take the towel. Okay. Coach is getting some towels. All right. As far as the secondary, we've been talking about them the whole time. So hopefully we've painted a good picture. We were both very impressed with the secondary. So they did a great job. What about Leonard Floyd? Floyd? Oh my gosh, this lady's like in here now. Floyd looks the part. Floyd's a really, really, really good player. I think that he's shown to be a really, really good player. Today, he didn't show anything otherwise. I think Floyd's going to be the perfect bookend with Bosa. Tommy says, you guys are sitting next to each other. Adorbs. Tommy said, you guys are sitting next to each other. Adorbs.
Shut your weak ass up, Tommy.
I love you, Tommy. Those words are not the sentiments of Last Second Sports. They are the sentiments of Coach, though.
No, Tommy, my guy. He
always is trying to razz somebody. Yeah. And by the way, Tommy's like this full time. Like he'll even DM me like the craziest stuff.
Oh, nah. Tommy's already gotten me about not reading the super chats. I felt the wrath.
Oh, okay.
I felt the wrath.
All right. Harold says most surprising player on the offense and defense. Positive. Most surprising. This isn't necessarily the best. We did ask.
Okay, most surprising player on offense, and then on defense, the positive. Okay, on offense, who surprised me on offense? Braden Willis.
Okay.
Braden Willis had 2 good plays during move the ball. All right, he looked good during blocking, and also I feel like Cam Latu is kind of coming on a little bit. You know, he had 1 pass.
Yeah.
Whatever. He's getting better. Yeah. But I feel like Braden is, I feel like Cam Latu is who they want to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
But Braden is forcing them to reconsider.
Yeah. Braden actually, he's got a little Delaney Walker to him.
He does.
Yeah.
He does.
He's got a little Delaney Walker.
He's very athletic. Mm-hmm. I like him. So for all offensively, Jalen surprised me, and Braden Willis surprised me, and I'm not going to spam Jalen Graham. But for defense,
the biggest surprise was that Okanai. I mean, we've talked about him 1,000 times. The dude, like, we didn't even know who the hell he was.
I didn't know his name.
Yeah. So he was the biggest surprise on defense.
He was the biggest surprise.
Biggest surprise on offense for me, Trent Taylor. I mean,
Trent, yeah.
I don't expect Trent to make this team. And I'm like, why is he here? Like, second stint, he hasn't been good in years. He had 2 touchdown receptions today. I mean, that was surprising to me. Yeah. That was surprising.
I mean, one thing is that this offense is favorable to his skill set, short and breaking routes that he can be able to get the ball and be able to make something happen in space.
Yeah.
You know, Trent Taylor is one of those guys where either you value him and you make the offense about what he can do best, or you kind of bastardize his skill set and you just use him as a punt returner. You use him as a guy to fill out your roster for depth.
Yeah.
I just feel like he finds value here.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what you're seeing.
Absolutely. Great question. Thank you, Harold. Dale says, I really want to know about the special teams kickoff and returns plans. Yeah, so we would too. They didn't practice it.
They didn't practice it today.
I don't know. We didn't see them practice the new kickoff rule. We did see players fielding punts.
Yeah, we saw punt.
Yeah,
punt return.
So Ricky Pearsall was the best of all of them, in my opinion. Trent Taylor. Who else was the other ones?
I was watching O-line during this one, so you had this.
Ronnie Bell. So it was Bell, Taylor, and Pearsall, I believe, that were fielding punts. Okay. And I think that Pearsall was clearly the best out of all of them.
You were talking about it.
Yeah. Which was great to see. Dave, what's up, Dave? He says, great show, guys. More personal next to each other. Yeah, it's actually nice, man. It is nice. I feel it's so much. It's like way more natural to do a show with somebody right next to you. It just makes more sense. I'm gonna miss it going back and not being able to be real with you.
Yeah.
Dazza says Dawan Jones instead of Latu and JPJ instead of Pearsall would have been really helpful this year. Yeah, I mean, if we had Dawan Jones at right tackle and then I don't know, JPJ up the middle, that might have been helpful. But we got the players that we got. And this is kind of where it's at.
It's the first day of pads.
Yeah,
we're trying to stay. We're trying to stay positive.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said, thank you to everybody that not only watched this stream here, but watched Coach's stream. Make sure that you check out both channels. The way we're doing this all week is we're starting on one channel, going for roughly an hour, and then we're finishing on the other. I think we kind of worked out something today.
Yeah.
I think we can do like the major play-by-play of what happened here. That'll kind of where we'll house that. And then as far as like the overall, here's everything that happened outside of that and everything that impressed us, all the other players, maybe we can do on your channel. But we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
It'll be different every day probably, but I think that worked really well. Either way, tune in to both channels. We are going to be going live from both of them after practice every single day this week. So until next time, tomorrow, actually, we'll talk to you. Peace.